Part 19. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 182. Chapter 182, What to Do About Anshan. Including the slowly reclaimed land behind, more than half of the 3 hills have been developed. And many of the fruit trees harvested by Mei Shui have survived. And Lin's marriage was finally settled after Aunt Ting returned. However, it was obvious to everyone that Anshan's temperament had changed again. Not as cheerful as before, let alone noisy. Grandma he sighed deeply when she found out. Anshan can still have a bright future if he can go out. If he keeps following his parents, I'm afraid he will be suppressed by Lin in this life. Mei Shui didn't want to ask too much about this matter. Liang and the others were very angry, but it was useless to be angry. It was his father and brother who took away Anshan's money. It is his mother. As a result, Anshan no longer went up the mountain to catch fish with Wen and the others, nor did he hang out with Liang and the others. The whole person became very melancholy. But Mei Shui knew that even so, Anshan did not forget to express his gratitude to his third grandma and sister-in-law from his heart. Mei Shui's belly is gone, and most of the firewood at home is chopped down by Wen and Liang. Sometimes some firewood would appear out of nowhere, but Mei Shui and Grandma he would not poke it because they knew that it was chopped by Anshan. Unconsciously, Anshan became taciturn and had no sense of existence. Slowly people forget about him. If it weren't for the firewood that appeared from time to time, Mei Shui and Grandma he would have almost forgotten about this person. Privately, Wen taught Anshan his secret to catching snakes, and Anshan also learned attentively. At the end of May, Ans, Xiangyang and Shaolai finally made a big deal. Ans, can you tell me about Li Yu's affairs? After another person drove, Xiangyang lazily leaned on his chair and asked Ans who was resting next to him. That's right, Xiangyang finally confessed to Li Yu, haha, maybe he was hit by Fang Kai. Ans opened his eyes and glanced at him, stay away from me, and don't tell me this person's name, it's disgusting. The disgust and displeasure in his eyes were clearly expressed. I know she liked you before, but that was because she was ignorant. Besides, she won't bother you now. Don't be so stingy, man. Xiangyang knew what was going on and smiled. Anyone who doesn't like my wife is my enemy. Ans rolled his eyes at him. I don't dislike my younger siblings. Who wouldn't like my younger siblings who are such outstanding people? Xiangyang had no choice but to please. Ans really has nothing to do with him. I think you're blind. She's so nice, but you didn't take it seriously. Now she's better. Fang Kai got there first. As for you, you went to find that fool. I really don't know if you're stupid or not. Shaolai laughed out loud when he heard this. He's not stupid, he's stupid. He had heard a lot of stories. The little girl may be jealous, but speaking ill of someone in person is not jealousy. His wife is a cheerful person who likes to be straightforward. She probably likes to deal with her younger siblings. But as for Li Yu, his wife's original words were that his heart is as high as the sky and his life is as thin as paper. Hey, brother Xiao, please drive your car well. As a man, he would tell some dirty jokes in the car, and soon Xiangyang and Ans couldn't stand it anymore. Stop the car, I have to go down and pee. After saying that, he gave Shaolai a hard look. This man is the worst. Xiangyang was also holding it in, and jumped out of the truck as soon as the car stopped. Put some water in your mouth and start talking nonsense again. Ans looked disgusted and walked away while urinating. I want to stay away from this second-rate guy. But, Mom, there's someone here. Ans shouted. Can't really blame him. It was late at night and there were no homes around. How could he not be frightened when he saw a figure lying on the ground? As soon as Xiangyang and Shaolai heard the noise, they couldn't wait to zip up their pants and ran over. What's wrong? Ans pulled up his pants, pointed at the figure in the grass not far away and said, Look, Is that a person? Xiao Lai held a flashlight in his hand and looked forward. Oh my God, he is really a human being, just a child. After speaking, Xiao Lai went forward to check. The two of them did not lag behind. They dug through the grass and asked, "Are you still alive?" Xiao Lai nodded, alive, but with a lot of wounds on his body. The child looked like he was only 7 or 8 years old, and he didn't know how he got so many wounds. Hians has just become a father and is closer to his child than the two of them. Come on, take him out first. It was too dark in the grass to see clearly. The three of them worked together to lift the person out, but there was no other way. No one dared to hug him. The injuries on his body were really too severe. This is not far from Mingcheng, but not close either. It takes at least 3 hours to drive to Mingcheng. They usually take this road when they come back. It's close. Look, this is not a wound caused by wild animals in the mountains, Xiangyang couldn't bear to say. Oh my God, this child wasn't beaten by a family member, was he? Xiao Lai thought thoughtfully. Hians shook his head. It's impossible. He's a boy. The family won't be so harsh on boys. Let's get him into the car first. There was no one around, so this child must have been thrown here by someone. Sure, I'll hold you. Xiangyang was no longer frightened. After the child was carried into the car, Hians and Xiangyang helped him change his clothes. There was nothing they could do. Although the weather was not too cold, the child's clothes were all wet. In addition, he was injured, so he had to take off his clothes first. But when the two of them finished putting on the clothes on the child, both of them breathed out sweet fragrance. Did a human do this? For such a young child to be beaten like this, I don't want him to live. Xiangyang's eyes turned red. There was not a single good spot on the child's body. There were wounds all over his body, and some places were even suppurating. Shut up, hold him up, I have some iodine here, I'll wipe him. Hians felt sad in his heart. Xiao Lai didn't talk nonsense. Be careful, I'm driving now and get to Mingcheng early so that I can take the child to the hospital. They couldn't treat such a serious injury. In this way, 3 people were walking on the night road with a cart of goods and an injured person. In the village, Mei Shui and the others have slowly forgotten about the incident since they discovered that something was wrong with Anshan. Only forgetting will make Anshan feel calmer. Grandma, what do you think Enting thinks? Since he was unwilling to take out Anshan's money at first, why would he take out Anshan's money now? Grandma, he sighed without thinking. What else can you think? It must be he Zhengting and Enlin who forced her, otherwise Anshan himself wouldn't resist. After all, children are the debts of their parents. What will Anshan do in the future? Mei Shui asked just casually. Now grandma doesn't go anywhere and stays with her every day. It would be boring if she didn't find something to say. Seeking recommended tickets, seeking monthly tickets, and rewarding, everyone has recently been. Why don't you vote for the author? Sad. My dears, get your votes moving. End of this chapter. 80s, the farmer's wife is the boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 183. Chapter 183, Xiaomiao, please recommend votes, monthly votes. What else can we do? Come on, go to college and leave this home. However, with that family's vampire nature, Anshan will be sucked by them even if he leaves home. The only thing he can do is to go to a place far away. Place. Only in this way can Anshan truly escape from his blood-sucking brother. Otherwise, given He Zhengting's temperament, Anshan will have to pave the way for his brother in his life. This is so unfair to Anshan, who can really do it when leaving home. There is nothing we can do about it. At worst, he will just farm at home and live with his brother's family. He will regret it when he grows old. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Grandma, Enlin's marriage has been decided, shall we go then? Enlin's marriage was decided in a hurry. It's like a daughter-in-law who bought her with money. As soon as she bought her, she slept with another girl without saying anything, and she didn't buy anything else. Go and return the favor from now on. You should stay out of that family's affairs also, even if you intervene in Anshan's affairs. Let An Liang and An Wen come forward even if you want to help. Grandma he was worried about telling Mei Shui, fearing that she would be soft-hearted and take the initiative to help Anshan. That would be the real trouble then. I have too much money and no place to spend it. With this money, it is better to buy more hills and then develop it into the farm she wants. Hey Grandma, he gave Mei Shui a roll of her eyes. You're still not soft-hearted, otherwise why would you help An Wen and the others? Well, Grandma even laughed at Mei Shui afterwards. It's not for Grandma's sake, besides, they still have a conscience, Mei Shui said unconvinced. Oh, that's because they still have humanity. If they are like An Lin, they won't have anywhere to cry. From now on, don't teach those skills to foreigners. No. She is not stupid. Soon June arrived, and the seedlings in the fields began to grow. This year, because Mei Shui was pregnant, Grandma he couldn't finish the work by herself, so she hired others to do all the household chores. Spend a small amount of money to win people's hearts. By the way, the fields need to be sprayed again, right? Mei Shui has been counting the days. The rice fields at home have been improved by her spiritual spring water, and the rice they produce now is very different from the past. The rice is fragrant, not to mention the plants grown with spiritual spring water. They all have a repair function. This is why Boss Jian is willing to buy even if the price is high. There are many knowledgeable people who accumulate energy from every meal and change their bodies step by step. Will others not notice such changes? Plus, the taste is indeed much sweeter and more delicious than ordinary ones. Grandma he nodded. Well, it's not much. I'll do it myself this time. Doesn't it cost money to hire someone? She felt distressed. Mei Shui didn't know what her grandma was thinking. Come on, don't get sick in such a big Sunday, Mei Shui said with a smile on her face. Fortunately, there was no disdain in her eyes, otherwise Grandma would never be done with her. Since the last time He Zhengting came to make trouble, the relationship between the two has also changed. Grandma he is really getting younger and younger. She bickers with Mei Shui every day. It was a happy life in her childhood. Mei Shui was also led by her grandma, and now she talks a lot more. Li Shuangshuang sometimes came to chat with Mei Shui, but she was so angry that she went home early. You kid, how can you talk? Are you still expecting me to order? I can still do my job, old lady grandma, he said unconvinced. Come on, grandma, Xiaobai laughed at you yesterday, Xiaobai lay innocently. After grandma recovered, there were more animals on the mountain because Xiaobai stopped guarding. Coupled with the temptation of the spiritual spring water, those animals that are not afraid of death have come out one after another. There was no other way, fearing that they would harm the vegetables in the field. Mei Shui could only ask Xiaobai to guard the mountain. It just so happens that grandma doesn't plan to go out either. How dare it, I won't give it food at noon today. Knowing that she had done something embarrassing 2 days ago, grandma he felt embarrassed. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore, go and take a nap, it's so hot at noon. Grandma he didn't want to say anything, so she could only drive people away. Meixia shook her head. Okay, I'm going to bed. I won't talk anymore. Of course we have fans at home, but they are small iron fans, not like the big iron fans we used to see in Zhijiahui. The smaller one is more convenient to use and the sound is much quieter. The wind blew, and Mei Shui fell asleep after a while. Grandma he also moved around. After tidying up the yard, she closed the door and went back to the house to sleep. She couldn't do it without taking a nap. She didn't feel energetic in the afternoon. Xiaobai, on the other hand, had a lot of fun playing in the mountains. Since it went up the mountain, there have been a lot fewer small animals, but there are still a lot of ignorant ones. So Mei Shui asked and went to catch them in the vegetable field. Whether they were snakes, hares, pheasants, etc., he caught a lot of them. In this month, he made a lot of money selling these. Xiao Bai, stop it quickly, my sister-in-law and Shuang are out of chickens today. It turned out that An Wen found several pheasants, and they were drinking water there. Xiao Bai was very obedient and was not afraid of exposing himself, so he stopped the chickens directly. Possibly because it has the aura of Xiao Yu Sirius, these pheasants cannot move as soon as they get close to Xiao Bai, and they all crawl on the ground. Xiao Bai is great, it's like picking up these wild animals with you. And when praised Xiao Bai after catching 3 big pheasants. Xiao Bai raised his head proudly, as if to say, of course. Let's go over there and take a look. Don't let those hares harm the newly sprouted sprouts. And Wen has almost become the patron saint of this mountain now. Perform patrols here every day. Fortunately, the daily harvest is also very attractive. As soon as I woke up, there was a knock on the door of Mei Shui's house. Meixiu stood upstairs and could see who was coming at a glance. It is none other than Grandma. This Grandma hasn't been here for a while. She didn't even come to take a look at Xiaoxin's house at that time, but now that it's here, Mei Shui feels that Grandma's spring has come. Grandma, he also heard the noise and walked out of the main room. Who is it? It's noon, isn't it hot? He walked out and asked, what are you doing here? To this sister-in-law, Grandma, he almost couldn't help but step forward and slap her. Not to mention that there was he and me accompanying her. My temple is small and cannot accommodate you 2 great gods. He said this, but the door was still opened. Hence, it can be seen that the image created by Grandma he in the village is still very useful. You are still so sharp-tongued. I must have something to do with you when I come here. Can I still come if nothing happens? The grandmother said with a look of disgust. However, it would be better if there was not so much light in the eyes. Evidently he was observing this new building, feeling envious of it. But she can't help it. If her grandchildren don't have any future at home, then even her children won't have any future. Thinking of this, she was so painful that her blood started to bleed. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 184. Chapter 184, Granny Level Scolding Battle. My family can't help you with your matter. Don't open your mouth here, otherwise all the friendship will be gone in the end. Grandma, he blocked it directly. He and me, I was anxious, third Grandma. Unfortunately, she knew something was wrong as soon as she opened her mouth to congratulate Grandma. What is it called? I'm not dead yet. Grandma, he was so annoyed with this grandniece about what happened to Anhu last time. Just ask your own grandma to call Grandma. Grandma pulled he and me and said, children, please don't interrupt when adults are talking. She almost pulled him down. After Mei Shui's hard work, several pomegranate and orange trees were planted in the small courtyard of Xinjia. Although you can't hide in the shade, you won't appear to be empty. There is also the grape trellis opposite the well, which Mei Shui dug directly from the grapevines in the yard over there. If Grandma hadn't said no, Osman, thus trees should be planted at the gate, she would have wanted to dig them up. Meixiu, who didn't understand it, could only start cultivating it from a small tree. It was so hot in the summer that there was not even a place to take shelter in the courtyard. Under the eaves, the 2 old ladies sat down. Grandma, he said very rudely, it doesn't matter whether you borrow money or not. Grandma was angry and said, I only know money, money, money. I won't borrow money from you, she said angrily. If you don't know about money, what else do you know? Family ties? Haha, Grandma, he rolled her eyes and said with disdain, seriously, I have to go for a walk in the mountains in the afternoon. Grandma did not delay and said directly, Xiaomei is not young anymore. I want to marry her off today. My family is poor and I can't give her a dowry. I don't want to let her learn a trade. Hearing this, what else does Grandma he not understand? Learn a craft, just learn a craft. It's none of my family's business. What can you say when you come here? Be alert in your heart. The plums will bloom soon. I want her to learn the art of making plum wine from Xiaoxiu. You see. What the hell, how much money does your family pay for school? Grandma he was so angry that her heart ached. You still need money, the grandmother couldn't help but asked, didn't Enlin and the others spend money to study? She had already inquired about it. Enlin didn't spend any money because he is a white-eyed wolf. And when En Liang spent a lot of money, Grandma he said with eyes full of your idiotic expression. You don't know what kind of character your Enlin is? He, there are 3 people learning crafts, and he is the only one with white eyes. It is easy to imagine that there is no good person in your family. Grandma he is not afraid of scolding people. It's not Enlin's fault. He doesn't sell wine and doesn't make any money. Otherwise, he would have come to show his filial piety to you a long time ago. Just wait a moment, the grandmother said, very unhappy in her heart. But no matter how unhappy I was, I had to say this, otherwise the family would not have the money to give me a dowry. Forget it, wait until he comes to show filial piety to me, I'm afraid I'll be a pile of dirt by then. Mei Shui listened for a long time, but she didn't intend to show up anymore, so she turned directly from the corridor to the back of the house. Hians built a large flat area behind the house for cooling off in summer. There were bamboo mats, stools, etc., as well as food and drink. There are very few people who can be invited to the back by Mei Shui and Grandma He. They were talking in front of the main room, and Mei Shui happened to be sitting at the back of the main room, so she could hear them clearly no matter how loud the sound was. What about Mei? She is very filial. Grandma was not a fool either. When she saw that Enlin couldn't make sense, she immediately changed her mind. You have watched Mei grow up, right? You know her temperament very well. She is definitely not a white-eyed wolf. After she gets married, she will definitely go to the town to buy you delicious food. Grandma he lost her patience. Come on, it's just her. Grandma he looked disgusted. She can divorce her brother and sister-in-law, but she doesn't know what her life will be like in the future. She can't help but it's better to rely on my newbie. Everyone in the village knows Xiaobai's name. They all know that Aunt He's family has a puppy named Xiaobai, and the name of Xiaoshan is fierce. General animals are no match for it. Even though it is small, it is very powerful. Hearing this, he and Mei and Grandma were not happy. Third, Grandma, why do you compare me to a dog? That is, how do humans compare with animals? Heh, some people can't even compare to animals. Okay, you've been sitting here for a while. Let's go. I have something to do at home in the afternoon. If you have nothing to do in the future, don't come. I'm too lazy to sweep the floor. This is very disrespectful. You are still pouting like that and your words are not lenient at all. Be careful and it will end badly. The grandma was also angry. I've already ended up like this, so what's there to be afraid of? You'd better take care of yourself first, be careful that you have no one to rely on. Grandma he was not angry, but smiled. She had already let go of that matter under Xiaoxiu's guidance, and now it was the perfect way to use it to annoy people. Son, I can't manage my son well. My grandson has no future. If it were me, I should have killed them in the first place. So the eldest grandma was angry and left, cursing as she left. How could Grandma he be timid? She immediately chased her to the back of the yard and started to curse back. Not only did he scold the grandma, but he also scolded He Zhengting and the others. Mei Shui was worried after hearing this. Grandma, okay, go back to the house quickly, the sun is shining brightly outside. Afraid that grandma would be angry, Mei Shui hurriedly walked out from behind the house. Don't be angry, let's see if I don't make that old woman mad. Grandma, he waved her hands and said nonchalantly. I think about other people's things every day. If you have the ability, come and grab them. If you grab them, you win. Huh, they are all white-eyed wolves. They still want this and that. They didn't come out of my mother's pants. They still want it? Do you want me to care about their life or death? If more of my children had given birth to something like this, I would have drowned them long ago. They were really using pearls as glass. Now it's time to get retribution. No matter how unpleasant the words are, you can scold them no matter what. Grandma is not weak here either. No matter how bad I am, I still have a man to rely on and a son to support me. It's nothing like you, who is dead. At such a young age, I have to support my eldest grandson by myself. I don't know how this grandson is supported and how many people in the village help support him. If you scold others if you are not clean, you are shameless, you are a piece of shit. Grandma, he was no longer angry at these words. When she was young, she had a quarrel with the sister-in-law. It has been decades, and the curse words have not changed. Then help me look for someone who has helped me raise a grandson. Now that my family is prosperous, let me thank others and let ends come and kowtow to others. That is a life-saving grace. We have consciences. Unlike white-eyed wolves, no matter how much you eat, it's too little, and you can't even feed them all. Mei Shui is really knowledgeable. Thinking about how good grandma is at scolding people, it's even more exciting than doing it with her own hands. He and me, I was so embarrassed that she couldn't even raise her head. Fortunately, she didn't hear the third grandma scolding her. It's not that grandma he doesn't want to scold her, but what does he and me I have to do with her? Unfamiliar. Continue to ask for tickets. Recommended tickets and monthly tickets are all needed. Weekend is here again, and the village girl has to prepare for the extra time. End of this chapter. 80s, the farmer's wife is the boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 185. Chapter 185, give me an idea, please vote for recommendation, monthly vote. This scolding caused a lot of people to come out. It's just that everyone is watching the show. These two old ladies are not easy to mess with. Fortunately, He Zhengting and the others all went up the mountain and were not at home, otherwise. Mei Shui thinks it's a good thing to exercise her skills. Expect. As soon as the quarrel was over, Aunt Zillion and Aunt Milian came to the door. My third aunt, you are not afraid of bringing down your great-grandson? Aunt Mei Lian joked as soon as she entered the door. What are you afraid of? He's just a little kid and he doesn't know a thing. His mouth dropped. Meixiu was speechless and went into the room to pour a glass of water for the three of them. Li Shuang also ran over from home in a hurry. Sister-in-law, why are the third grandmother and sister-in-law quarreling? Looking at her sleepy look, Mei Shui smiled. It's okay, please fix your hair quickly. It's really messy. It can be seen that she is really anxious. Ah, Li Shuang was anxious. What's wrong with my hair? A group of people laughed when they saw Li Shuang's appearance. After cleaning up, Li Shuang calmed down and asked, Sister-in-law, why did the third grandma and the eldest grandma have a fight? When Aunt Zillion heard what her daughter-in-law said, she became anxious and said, don't ask around. Mom will tell you when I get home. Grandma, he smiled and said, if you want to tell something, don't say it in front of me. I'm not telling you, I'm telling both of you, and I won't talk nonsense. The whole afternoon passed by talking and laughing. Tomorrow is the weekend, and the holiday is getting closer. En Liang and En Cheng have been very busy every day these days. Because there is an exam. As soon as I got home in the afternoon, I locked myself in the room and didn't come out. I will not go out to report to Meixiu until the next day, and then go to Chaotian Mountain to catch fish. After Meixiu's fish feed became less and less, the number of fish they caught also slowly declined. But they don't care, anyway, they just treat it as earning some pocket money. On this day, everyone gathered at Mei Shui's home, but of course, Anshan didn't come. Okay, come to my house to eat and drink as soon as you get back. As soon as she saw them arriving, Grandma he scolded with a smile. Who told the third grandma's family to have enough food? There is no way, we have no place to hang out. The greasy-tongued Liang really owes a lot. Taking mixed eating as a matter of course. I owe you sure enough, he received a stern growl from Grandma he. No, I owe the third grandma. She behaved like a quail. Other people want to laugh but dare not, for fear of suffering themselves. It's good to know next time you make wine, remember to make it for my family too. Well, it turns out that Grandma he is waiting for Liang here. Liang was happy when he heard this. No problem, I'll take care of it all. Now everyone dares to laugh and talk loudly. The sun is not shining brightly in the morning and it is very cool under the eaves. Everyone is sitting here talking and laughing. Sister-in-law, I can no longer do the fishing work on the mountain. What do you think I should do in the future? Liang sighed. Cheng also stared at his sister-in-law with bright eyes, hoping that her sister-in-law could help them find a solution. Meixiu rolled her eyes and said, it's none of my business. Yes, she was infected by grandma recently. Sister-in-law, you can't imitate the third grandma, it's not good. So, as soon as Liang finished speaking, the broom in Grandma he's hand came into close contact with him. Wow, third grandma hurts. The cry penetrated the sky. And Aunt Milian and Uncle Genkei also heard it, and they were not far away, so why couldn't they hear it? Your son is finished, Aunt Milian said with a look of gloating. Genkei twitched his lips and said, it doesn't sound like he's talking about your son. The two of them shook their heads calmly. It's better to have another one, they said in unison. After finishing speaking, both of them laughed. Above, in the courtyard of the He family. You really need to take care of yourself. Grandma he stopped and cursed when she was tired. Third grandma, leave this to me, I'll help you. And Cheng, the restless man, became angry again. Grandma he broke away from An Cheng's hand and said, you also owe a lot, and An Liang has led you to ruin. I was scolded, beaten, and talked about, but these three children were still very pleasing to Grandma he. Okay, don't make any noise. I'm going to go for a walk in the mountains. You have to be careful. Your sister-in-law is still pregnant. I have to pick some vegetables in the morning. In a few days, the boss will come to pick vegetables again. There are more dishes this time, and I don't know if he can sell them all. I know, third grandma. The three of them were very well behaved. After they left, the three of them immediately continued the topic. Mei Shui is in a bit of a dilemma. She doesn't know what to do to make money. Besides, what can little kids like them do? And Wen was fine. He took over the snake business and made a lot of money every month, which was considered one of the best in the village. But his family was very strict and no news came out at all. Mei Shui is still very satisfied with this. If such a large amount of money is spread out, it will be very troublesome. On Liang Anken, just study hard and get into a good university. You don't want to spend your whole life farming and chopping wood in the village, right? Mei Shui said, stroking her rumbling belly. Sister-in-law, we will definitely be able to get into college, but there is no conflict between getting into college and making money. In the limited time, we think we can do it, and Liang is actually very worried. But his general direction was not good and he was not sure, so he focused on Mei Shui in everything. Not to mention An Cheng, he is the most honest child. And Wen also looked at Mei Shui expectantly, hoping that she could give him an idea. Mei Shui did not do many things because of her pregnancy, and she no longer raised chickens and pigs at home. She also wanted to raise fish, so opening a fish pond would be perfect. At that time, she can raise some lotus flowers in the fish pond. They should not be too beautiful. At present, there are no promising places for fish sources. You all want to make money, Mei Shui said confused. Yes, sister-in-law, please teach us, and Liang said seriously. After thinking about it, Mei Shui said, since you all think so, I'll tell you, and Chen, your parents are close to the creek. You go back and let your parents raise ducks to sell. Now more and more people are doing business outside. If there are too many, I won't be afraid that the duck won't be sold. Turning her head, Mei Shui looked at An Liang. As for you, you often go to school and are away from home, and Aunt Milian has to go to catch the big market again and again, so why not just raise chickens at home? When you are tired, the house smells a little bit. But the chickens don't have to be sold. Mei Shui suggested to go out one by one. When she arrived at Anwen, Mei Shui had an idea before, which was to let Anwen raise pigs. It wasn't that she didn't want to raise pigs herself, but she disliked the strong smell of pigs. Anwen, it's even easier. It depends on whether you dare to gamble. Raising pigs is different from chickens and ducks, and the cost is much higher. Besides, Anwen is not short of capital now. It really corresponds to the old saying, you can make a fortune by keeping quiet. The votes are moving. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 186. Chapter 186, The Restless Three People. Sister-in-law, I will listen to you. And when immediately became anxious after seeing that he stopped as soon as he arrived. Pig raising, have you noticed that the price of pork is getting more and more expensive? Last year it was only 1.2 yuan, but this year it is 1.5 yuan. Mei Shui discovered this when her grandma asked the villagers to bring meat back. Yes, my mother was saying 2 days ago that meat is getting more and more expensive now, and Wen agreed. As long as you know, as meat becomes more and more expensive, raising pigs will definitely not lead to losses. Of course, if they are not raised well, the cost will be huge, Mei Shui explained. You have to discuss this with An Liang and the others. They are studying abroad, and there must be books for sale nearby. When the time comes, you can buy a book on pig raising and read it, learn step by step, and you will definitely make money in the future. This involves a question of luck. She can't say she can help. She can help for a while, but she can't help forever. Since the two families get along quite well, Mei Shui also intends to give them a hand. She cannot change her family while they remain the same. Raise pigs, and Wen became thoughtful after hearing this. He couldn't make up his mind at the moment, but if he agreed with Mei Shui's words, she must be certain of what she said. Sister-in-law, show me your bottom. Do you have a way to ensure that the pig doesn't die? And Wen asked hopefully. Mei Shui shook her head. I'm not a pig, how can I guarantee it? I'm just giving you an idea. It's better to raise pigs at home than to ask Uncle Jensi to go up the mountain to chop wood. What she wanted to say was, how long can they cut down the wood in the mountains? Uncle Jensi's legs are uncomfortable. He can still do the work of raising pigs at home. If you are afraid, don't stop catching snakes. There are still a lot of game in the mountains, and you will make a lot of money every month. She said everything she could. Ankan and Anliang are much simpler. The death rate from raising chickens and ducks is not that high, but the income is also much lower than in Anwen. The three of them were silent. Mei Shui has been observing them. If she is too timid to do anything, she will not say anything again in the future. I listen to my sister-in-law, I will do this. And Liang was the first to agree. I make a lot of money selling wine, and I will pay for it if I can. If his parents don't agree with him, the worst he can do is make wine for 1 more year. To this, Anwen also responded, okay, I'll go back and tell Shuang. If she agrees, I will raise this pig. However, don't keep pigs near your home, otherwise I will kill you. Mei Shui glared at Anwen and said. If you want to raise pigs, you'd better go to the brigade to buy a new base and put it downstream of the stream, otherwise you will be scolded to death by the villagers. Mei Shui sighed after thinking about the smell of pig. It's okay, don't be afraid of this. I still have a field below my house. I will raise it to Anhua's house when the time comes, and Wen said furtively. Mei Shui looked down the mountain and felt happy. It's up to you. The field Anwen was talking about was on the mountain side of he Anhua's house. There was a big gap in the middle of the mountain. There was also a stream in the middle, but the water flow was not too big, but there was water all year round. Come down from the mountain. It's very convenient to put it over there. And Chen also nodded in agreement, but he had to go home and tell his parents about this. Mei Shui has no objection to this. Okay, let's get down to business. Do you have any ideas for this year's plum wine? Boss Jian has come to tell me that he wants a lot, and it's definitely not cost-effective to make dozens or hundreds of kilograms of wine. Sister-in-law, do you want to brew too? And Liang was still a little worried, fearing that he might not be able to brew well. Brew? Why not brew if you have money? It's not that difficult. Hearing this, and Chen wanted to get up and leave, but was stopped by Mei Shui. You can also learn, but if you want to brew it, don't brew it at your home. It won't be good for the people in the village to see it. Mei Shui truly regarded them as her little brothers. Think about them in everything. If An Shan were here. Sister-in-law. And Chen was very excited. Can I learn it? Yes, but whether you can learn it successfully or not depends on whether you have the ability. Just teach it again like them. Mei Shui smiled. Well, I will learn it, and I will study it with all my heart. This is a craft, and he must learn it. That's good. Go back and tell your parents. You can make wine with me and put the wine in my house. The old house just happens to be vacant. And Liang will also put your wine there. There is no plan to put the wine in that house this year. Raise poultry, Mei Shui said kindly. Hey, we all listen to my sister-in-law. At noon, and Liang was so excited that he ran home, caught a chicken, killed it, and brought it up. And Wen did the same. He took out a piece of bacon from his family, which was pork belly. Last year, when he was rich, his family bought a lot of it. It's even easier to make an appointment. Just go back and bring the newly bought meat and bones from home. It's okay now, Mei Shui looked at them speechlessly. Go ahead and cook for yourself, and then go back and ask your family members to come and have dinner together. Are they crazy? When Grandma he came back, she saw the three boys busy at the well. Meixiu, with her big belly, was directing them from the side. What are you doing here, Grandma? he asked as soon as she entered the yard. Third Grandma. Grandma. The overactive stomach made her very uncomfortable. Grandma, they stole things from the house, Mei Shui complained, pointing to the things by the well. After hearing the word steal, Grandma he slapped the three of them without saying a word. Not only that, after finishing smoking, Grandma he walked to the door of her courtyard and shouted to the outside, He Jiannan, Zhang Lanhua, get out of here. He Jianke, Pan Milian, you guys, get up here too. He Jiansi, 11 Lian, take both your pairs and come over here. With three shouts, no matter how far away they were, all six people heard them. He Jiannan had just returned from chopping wood when he heard his third aunt calling out. There was no further delay. Third aunt, we'll be here right away. Aunt Mei Lian and the others were the same, they didn't dare to delay. The third aunt is here. Aunt 11 Lian next door rushed He Jiansi out without even burning the fire in the pot. Li Shuang also put down her needlework and walked out of the main room. She knew that they had something to do with her sister-in-law today, so she didn't go with them. It's like this every weekend, and there's no point in her going there. Unexpectedly, they were called at this time. Aunt Zhengting, who was not far away, also heard it, but she didn't even raise her head and was picking vegetables behind the house. Ever since she handed over Anshan's money, she has lost her little son and can't speak a word at home every day. She was not feeling bad in her heart, but she also knew that because of Anlin, Anshan's path to wealth in the future was cut off. She feels sorry for Anshan. It's time for extra updates on the weekend. Everyone who has votes can vote, and those who don't have votes can ask for a reward. Hee. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 187. Chapter 187, Way Out. Please vote for recommendation, monthly vote. Now that they are on vacation, Anshan is studying more hard. Fortunately, the state now pays for them to study in college. Otherwise, Anshan's dream of going to university would be stifled. But, things are unpredictable, who knows? Of course, these are all things for later. Let's talk about the three families first. As soon as they heard the sound, they rushed to his house. As soon as they arrived in the yard, they saw that their children had been whipped, and their mouths were severely whipped. Third aunt, what did they do again? Look, they made you angry. Aunt Mei Lian came first and asked as soon as she entered the door. What did you do? You actually learned to steal things at such a young age. Look at it. He pointed at the chicken beside him and said. This was stolen by your An Liang family. Didn't you even hear the sound at home, Grandma? He was angry. Aunt Mei Lian smiled and said, that's it for third aunt, haha, but he deserves to be beaten. She didn't dare to be verbose anymore and just told what happened. I really didn't know at first. I just came back from down there not long ago. No, not long ago he came home and told me about killing the chicken, saying that it was for Xiaoxiu's replenishment. Third aunt was not angry. After saying that, Aunt Mei Lian glared at her son. Why don't you say sorry to the third grandma quickly? I'll scare you, third grandma. She understood the third aunt's intention. She was afraid that the children would steal things and the family would not know about it. When the family found out, they would blame Xiaoxiu. Are they such people? Zhang Lanhua from Howie also understood a little bit more. It turned out that the third aunt didn't know what these brats were doing. Third aunt, I also know about this. He Gensi also smiled and said, third aunt, I know too. After hearing this, the anger on Grandma He's face subsided a little. Humph, who asked you to take it? You don't know how to make it at home, why did you bring it to my house? Okay, third aunt, don't be angry. Just now Xiaoxiu asked them to tell us that they would come to your house for dinner at noon. Don't be stingy and won't let us eat. Hook up Grandma He one by one. Grandma He looked at Xiaoxiu after hearing this. Mei Shui was helpless. Okay. They do it themselves can only indicate the meaning. Okay, let's start cooking when everyone comes up. Wait for them. You may not be able to eat until late. With things like this, she can't just drive everyone away. Seeing the third grandma put away the stick in her hand, the group of people breathed a sigh of relief. The lunch was delicious and lively. After lunch, these people were driven away by Grandma He and told to go back. They were not allowed to come in the afternoon. And Wen and the others also knew that the third mistress was still angry and had only been beaten in the morning, so they did not dare to come in the afternoon. Mei Shui and the others had gloating expressions on their faces. After they left, Mei Shui told Grandma what she had discussed with the three of them this morning. After hearing this, Grandma He looked at Mei Shui and asked, who are you selling it to? Boss Jian definitely couldn't eat so much. It is right to let them raise it, but to whom should it be sold? The town is only so big and there are so many villages around it. Who doesn't raise some poultry? Is there really a place to sell it if I raise too many? I haven't thought about this. Mei Shui really hasn't thought about it. If she wants it, she can eat it at home. Forget it, I'll ask Ans about this when he comes back. Maybe someone in the county will accept it. Grandma he knew Mei Shue's good intentions and didn't want Xiaoxiu to become a person who went back on her word. Oh, but he's coming back soon, Grandma, do you miss him? Mei Fa is getting skinnier now, and even Grandma is making fun of her. Huh, don't you want your own man? Zhang is still very old. Well, this matter won't be settled for a while. Someone from their family will definitely come over and ask. Then don't talk nonsense. Tell them about the sales. Don't ask you to contract everything. It is true that having an elder in a family is like having a treasure. Okay, I'll listen to Grandma. After I got pregnant, my brain has become hard to use. Mei Shui pretended to slap her head and said with a smile. It's good to know, you heartless girl. Just as Grandma he thought, these people talked about this matter with their parents when they returned home. Everyone thought about who to raise so many and sell them to. The three people were immediately confused by the question. The three of them didn't think about it for long, even if they weren't together, their answers were the same. I have a sister-in-law. Just as Grandma he thought, they were accustomed to relying on Mei Shui for everything. Even if a way was found for them, they would not take a step forward on their own. Rely on Mei Shui for everything. But no matter what, since Mei Shui started this matter, she can't save the rest. Just as Grandma thought, the three families came over the next day. Ask Mei Shui about sales. They are not children. They want to rely on others for everything. Xiaoxiu, this is a big deal. If we can't find a good market for it, we will be in trouble. What can you do? He Jinnan didn't want to ruin the relationship with Xiaoxiu after raising her. He can't guarantee that after spending so much money, he will not feel distressed or run out of ideas. Mei Shui sat next to Grandma He. After hearing this, Mei Shui glanced at Grandma. I didn't explain this clearly. Now that Uncle Jinnan is here, you should think about this clearly, because I have no sales. Mei Shui feels like she has become a nanny. Grandma He also looked unhappy. Xiaoxiu is still pregnant with a child. You can't ask her everything. If she has such a big market, why don't our family raise it ourselves? Grandma's words are unpleasant, but they make sense. Xiaoxiu is just trying to come up with a solution for you. You have to think about the rest yourself. He Jinnan, He Jinkei, and others all nodded after hearing this. The third aunt is right, this is not because the children think about the problem too easily. Let's come over and ask. Since Xiaoxiu said there is a way out of this matter, let's try it too. The worst is possible when the time comes, you can just go to the town or county and sell it yourself. It will always make more money than cutting wood. They are all people who have endured hardship, so they can still tolerate this little bit of hardship. Third aunt, don't be impatient. We understand what you mean. If you don't come here and ask first, don't blame Xiaoxiu. She has good intentions. How can we not understand? Aunt Mei Lian stood up and said something fair. Xiaoxiu, don't worry, we all know and understand your good intentions. You are pregnant with a child now, so you can't think too much about it. Mei Shui smiled and said, no, you just know. Seeing that the matter could not be resolved, the three families left the He family yard. After returning home, everyone was thinking deeply about this matter. The first one to agree was Aunt Milian. She thought the chickens could be raised. Anyway, the cost was not too much and the family could afford it. On Liang, when you come back from the holidays, you have to take good care of the chickens at home. After the matter was settled, He Jinkei said with a smile. It's the end of May now, and An Liang will be on vacation next month, so he can help out at home for a while. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 188. Chapter 188, Arriving at the Hospital, Additional Update. Dad, don't worry, I will definitely help my mother raise chickens at home, and I won't go crazy anywhere, and Liang responded obediently. As long as you're sensible, it's settled, let's go buy chickens during the big gathering. The Encheng family then decided that they would raise ducks, just as Xiaoxiu said, ducks live with the water. Their home was by a stream, and it would be a shame not to raise some ducks in such a good place. There is some trouble here in Anwen, mainly because the capital investment is too high. Mom, Dad, what do you think? Anwen was very moved. Eating meat was the most important thing for every household, so raising pigs would definitely not worry about selling them. She has no objection to Li Shuangshuang. She listens to brother Anwen and sister-in-law and takes care of him. She can help raise her at home every day. Aunt Zillian was a little hesitant. If all the money at home was used to raise pigs, what about Jensi's medicine money? Now that the medicine is so good, it costs at least 30 yuan a month. If the family's money is cut off, what should he do if he feels pain? He Zheng was so happy that he didn't think too much about it. I don't mind and when if you want to have a try, but we are both pregnant now. Although we are still far away from giving birth, the time is not far away. You have to think about setting aside this money to provide food, drink, and clothing for your children in the future. The family's conditions have improved, and he doesn't want to wrong his grandson. Li Shuangshuang was very moved when she saw her father-in-law thinking about her so much. Dad, it's okay. We have always kept the money from the child and will not lose it to him. After hearing this, He Jensi smiled and said, well, don't raise too many in our family at once. Let's have 10. Let's grow from small to large. Aunt Zillian's worries were revealed in one sentence, yes, let's raise less pigs first. If it goes well, we will build a pigsty next year and raise more pigs. After thinking about it, Aunt Zillian nodded and agreed. Anwen smiled. Okay, let's add 2 more rooms to the back of the house for 10 pigs. It's hot and it doesn't need to be repaired. We can move the toilet to the end and add 2 more rooms next to the pigsty. Mei Shui doesn't know these things, and she doesn't want to know. She only thinks about the vegetables in her field. Grandma, are there a lot of watermelons this year? That's right. After Mei Shui tasted the taste of watermelon, she especially liked this fruit. It's a lot. The season for planting is just right this year, and it's all bearing fruit now. I'll pick a small one for you one day and come back to see Grandma. He also laughed happily after Mei Shui changed the subject. That's good. It's not like last year when I planted so many and didn't even get a few of them, Mei Shui said with great pity. She really didn't know that the watermelon still needed to be pollinated. It was already cold. Where could the butterflies and bees come from? God would reward them if they could produce some. You kid, well, I know you like to eat, so Grandma will definitely take care of you. In June, as time passed, all 3 families bought poultry they wanted to raise at the market in the town. Even Grandma, he bought 30 chicks. These chickens were not for sale. She used them to make confinement food for Xiaoxiu. 30 is not too many, but it is not a lot. Mei Shui doesn't want her grandma to be so tired every day, so she invites Aunt Yanzi from Grandma Meng's house to come over and help keep an eye on the dishes. Go over there every day to look at it, water it, pull weeds, etc., and then sell it when the time comes. I gave Aunt Yanzi 2 yuan a day. Aunt Yanzi was very happy and agreed. No, June is here, and many vegetables are growing and ready to be picked and sold. Xiaoxiu, when will Boss Jian come over to haul the vegetables? There are many vegetables in this field that will get old if they are not picked. How wasteful it will be if you get old. Meixiu's belly has been around for more than 5 months, and her belly is getting more and more obvious. Plus she is pregnant with 2, and she can't sleep well every day and night. After waking up from hunger in the morning, she got up to eat something and then caught up on her sleep. Her strength returned, but her appetite also recovered. It's okay, it will be here in a few days, Aunt Yanzi, Don't worry, Mei Shui was eating the wine chicken that her grandma had fried for her. It was so delicious. After seeing that she could eat and sleep, both grandma and others felt relieved. That's good, but you haven't seen it. The vegetables are growing really well, and they haven't been harmed by the animals on the mountain. Speaking of this, Aunt Yanzi couldn't stop smiling. She gets 2 yuan every day, which is a lot of money in a month. No other woman in the village can earn more than her. That's Xiaobai's contribution. Grandma. He walked out of the kitchen, carrying 2 bowls filled with mung bean water. Here, drink some, the sun is very poisonous. He handed the bowl in his hand to Aunt Yanzi. Thank you, third aunt. Aunt Yanzi is not polite. She might be a little more polite at first, but after a while, she won't be polite anymore. Given every day, you can't be polite every day. No, as time passed, she no longer knew what politeness was. After you drink it, you can go back and have a rest, and then go up and walk around in the afternoon. Grandma, he said with a smile. Well, I know, those vegetables are growing too well, which makes people a little worried. Don't worry, this matter only lasts for the past 2 days. I told Boss Jian before that the next batch of vegetables will be cooked quickly, so he should come as well. Grandma, he has also changed from being worried at the beginning to being indifferent now. At first, she felt that there must be some ulterior motives for selling vegetables from her own house at high prices. Now, she believes that her dishes are worth the price. Like 11 Lian and Mei Lian, they would send over some homegrown vegetables from time to time. She had eaten them all and thought they tasted the same at first, but after frying them, she realized that their homegrown vegetables were really delicious. She felt she was at a loss at this price. Fortunately, they would bring something to her every time they came, otherwise she would have mentioned the price increase. Mei Shui doesn't know what Grandma thinks, otherwise she would definitely agree. Is the water in her space so good? That's good, Aunt Yanzi smiled. After drinking the last mouthful of mung bean soup, she stood up and left. As soon as they walked away, Grandma, he said to Mei Shui, tell me how your Grandma Meng's life is so good and she has such a good wife. Mei Shui was not sure. She raised her head from the bowl and looked at her grandma. Grandma, he smiled and said no more words. Eat quickly. After eating, walk around and then go to sleep. Grandma will ask you to get up at noon for dinner. Oh well. Mei Shui really wants to sleep. Hians also returned to Mingcheng and sent the child to the hospital as soon as possible. When the hospital saw the child, they thought it was them who beat him and immediately detained him. Don't mention it, doctors at this time are really brave. He was rescued by us on the road. We didn't hit this child no matter how good-tempered Xiang Yang was, he couldn't help but jump up. Hians was not happy either, but he didn't talk nonsense and just waited for the police to come. Okay, the child's life is the most important thing. The votes are moving. End of this chapter. 80s, the farmer's wife is the boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 189. Chapter 189, the police are coming. After hearing this, the people around them all looked at each other with suspicion in their eyes. Just like that, Hians took Xiang Yang and sat down, feeling a little lucky that he let Brother Xiao drive back to deliver the goods first. Otherwise, the 3 of them will be detained and they will be in big trouble if they fail to deliver the goods on time. After waiting for a long time, I saw 4 or 5 police officers approaching. What's going on? A very stylish man walked in front. He opened his mouth and asked a group of people. These people include doctors, nurses and patients. When they saw the police arriving, they all took a few steps away, revealing the people surrounding them. Soon an older middle-aged man came over and told the police what happened. After hearing this, the police said, it's right for you to do good deeds, but you can't wrong others. Mingcheng's police are quite qualified and they don't convict people as soon as they come up. The leading police officer stepped forward and asked, you were the one who brought the injured child here. Seeing the police coming, Xiangyang and Hians also stood up. Yes, it's us. That's it, you all should disperse. Seeing that there were too many people, the leading police officer directly asked them to disperse. After seeing that everyone just walked away, he frowned, but he also knew that everyone was very lively. Tell me, what's going on? Xiangyang was fed up with his anger and couldn't help shouting, explaining the whole story. Hians was still adding some details. Seeing that what the two men said was true, the police thought of the group of people a few days ago. We understand this matter, but we can't let you go just yet. I'll let you go after the child wakes up and I can ask him. Don't worry, our police will not wrongly accuse any good person, but we will not let anyone go either a bad person. The leader is very powerful. Okay, we all listen to the police, but we have to settle down in the past few days. We can't be allowed to live in the police station, right? Hian said, repulsed. The man smiled and said, don't worry, we won't let you go to the bureau. In this way, as soon as the hospital opens a single ward for the child, you will feel aggrieved and live with the child there. Things have been arranged, what else can they say? Xiangyang was very angry. Oh, you said it was not good for you to pee anywhere, but you chose to pee on others. Now that you are fine, trouble is coming. Hians glared at Xiangyang angrily. If it weren't for your nausea, would I be able to go? After bickering for a while, their stomachs began to growl. There was no other way. Because of this child, the two of them didn't even eat breakfast and didn't sleep all night. Fortunately, the police were kind enough to bring them meals and arrange the wards, so the two of them could relax. The child slept for 3 days. It was not until Shaolai was worried that they rushed over that the child finally woke up. As soon as he woke up and saw so many people around him, he was immediately frightened and shouted, "Ah! Hurry, call the doctor." Not only Hians and the others have been living here these days, but there are also 2 policemen who are also guarding here. Firstly, I am afraid that they will run away, and secondly, I am worried about the children. The ward suddenly became chaotic. Fortunately, the doctor came quickly and the child's mood was stabilized. The child was big, but he also liked to move around. Hians was the closest to him and stepped forward to hold him down before letting the doctor check him. Okay, the child will be fine when he wakes up, but his injuries are a bit serious and he will need to recover for a while. These doctors have seen these 2 people clearly in the past few days, and they don't look like bad people. Upon hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. That's good, the child is fine. Soon, a policeman came forward. Because he had a shift this morning, he was still wearing a police uniform, just to make the children less repulsive. But his hands were holding Hian's clothes tightly. Kid, don't be afraid, my uncle is not a bad person, you see, he is a police officer. After finishing speaking, he patted his clothes and said softly. The child looked up and didn't know if he understood it, but it was good that he didn't reject it. Come, tell uncle, who beat you like this? Uncle, please go and arrest the bad guys, okay? As soon as the child heard the typing, he immediately started dancing with his hands and feet. Go away, you are bad people, don't hit me, woo woo, mom, I miss mom, grandpa, where are you? Upon hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the child still remembered. He moved, but he kept leaning on Hians. Seeing that he was going crazy again, Hians immediately hugged him tightly. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Uncle is here and no one dares to bully you. After being comforted for a while, the child finally calmed down. He raised his injured eyes and looked at Hians. Won't uncle sell me? Hians' heart ached when he heard this. No, no, he quickly shook his head and said. The child seemed to be relieved. Uncle, I want to go home with you, and I want to be your child. At this point, The police knew that the three people in front of them were all good people. But you have your own parents. Your parents will be worried if you disappear. Hans was heartbroken, but he could feel his parents' pain even more. Mom is dead, Grandpa is missing, and Dad is also missing. No one would have thought that a child could panic. Because of his words, everyone thought he was an orphan. Is there no one at home anymore? The distress in Hans's eyes almost turned into reality. He also grew up without parents and knows the sadness and pain involved. The child did not speak, only shook his head. When the police saw this, they also felt distressed. However, you still have to ask the questions that should be asked. After staying in the hospital for another 3 or 4 days, the child clamored to go home with Hans and not stay here. And Hans didn't dare to take the person back without the consent of his grandmother and wife. If Grandma knew, she would definitely beat him to death. He looked at the police officers a little embarrassed, and the police officers also knew about Hans's situation. Well, if you have no objection, we agree that the child can go back with you, but you have to leave us your address and ask one of our colleagues to follow you back to your hometown. If you send a person to an orphanage, life will not be easy, so it is better to follow this young man in front of you. The family conditions are not bad and you can eat hot meals. Hans almost wanted to scold his mother. Is that what he meant? He comforted the child and said, "You just lie here obediently. My uncle will go out and ask some questions from the police and he will be back soon. Children are very sensitive, and they may have discovered something." He cried and let go of his hand. "Uncle, don't lie to me." "I'm not lying to you." Hans touched his head distressedly. Tickets are moved. On the last day of a week, the ticket must be powerful. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 190. Chapter 190, Let the Children Follow You. Please recommend and vote for me. Outside the door, Hans looked confused and said, "Did you make a mistake?" "He followed me." "Is this okay?" "Young man, we know that this is indeed a bit unethical, but you can't let such a young child go to an orphanage. Life there is really difficult." The leading police officer last time patted Hans on the shoulder and said, "Follow you, at least he can have hot food to eat, but over there, getting enough to eat is a problem, and you don't want the child you rescued to go hungry, right?" Gong and Gu could see it. The young man in front of him was very soft-hearted. If the child hadn't been so pitiful, he wouldn't have wanted to kidnap him morally. Maybe Hans didn't see what Gu Gongan meant, or maybe he knew it in his heart but didn't want to reveal it. "Just giving you an excuse to take the child away." "Okay then." Taking a deep breath, Hans agreed. After the matter was settled, Hans told the child the news. Looking at his excited face, he felt that this was actually not bad. So, Hans took the child out of the hospital, and the three of them got in the car and went back to the county town. Concerned about the public security, he wanted to go with him, but he would be delayed for a day, so he asked them to wait for him in the county town the next day. Maybe he was still a little worried, so public security Gu called the county police below and asked them to pick up the person first. "Let's wait until he comes to talk about what happens next." He also told them about Hans's rescue and asked them to be more polite. These tricks are all acceptable, and he happens to have to go to the store to take a look in the county town, and discuss some things with Xiang Yang and the others. Half a day passed like this. In the afternoon, Hans bought some things and was about to go back when public security officer Gu finally came. If he doesn't come to congratulate Ans again, he's going to fall out with them. "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for so long. There are some formalities that need to be completed for this business trip." "Don't be offended, Little brother Gugongan knew that he was late and said very embarrassedly. "It's okay, let's go. It will be dark if we go home any later." Hans didn't say anything more, and held the child's hand tightly. The little kid's name is Chen Yu, which is a very grand name. Hans and others call him Xiao. "Xiao, if you are tired, can uncle give you a hug?" Xiao shook his head. "Uncle, I'm not tired." Soon I boarded the bus to town. When the car got off, public security Gu was having a great time chatting with Hans. Hans also wanted to make friends, but there was no other way. How could someone working in transportation not have connections with the public security side? Even if it's from Ming Cheng. When we arrived at Hejiakan, it was really dark. Hans gave everything to Gu Gongan, and he carried Xiao all the way home. Mixu and her grandma were enjoying the breeze in the small courtyard to eat when they heard Xiaobai shouting happily to the outside of the courtyard. "What's Xiaobai's name? It's so noisy, Grandma," he said, very dissatisfied. "She also has to listen to the sound of the TV in the house." Because she was and he, no one in the village except An Liang, a skinny monkey, dared to come to her house to watch TV. And the third grandma was domineering, and what she wanted to watch was different from what An Liang and the others wanted to watch. After An Liang was whipped several times, he gave up watching TV. Thinking that when he gets rich, he must buy a big one and show it off every day so that the third grandma can't see it. Grandma he only heard Xiaobai's barking voice, but Mei Shui was different and understood Xiaobai's words. With a smile on his face unconsciously, Xiaobai said, "Hans is back, and he brought two people with him, a child and an adult." Grandma, maybe Xiaobai heard something. It's not always like this. Recently she couldn't tell Grandma what Xiaobai said. "Yeah, I don't know what's going on recently. There are so many animals on the mountain, it's really hard for, and when I try to catch them every day but I can't catch them." Looking at the game in the West Room, Grandma he had a smile on her face. Mixu was speechless. Is this pride? Soon, Mei Shui and Grandma he noticed someone approaching from their home. Grandma he was happy. "Xiaobai is pretty good, he can still hear people's movements," Grandma he said in one sentence. Xiaobai raised his head in shame and whined twice, as if to show off his abilities. Soon the figure was approaching, and Mei Shui saw Hans at a glance. He was carrying a child on his back. "Grandma, it's Hans who's back." After saying that, Mei Shui walked quickly to the courtyard gate. Grandma he was startled. "Xiaoxiu, please slow down, you will be back soon. Why are you in a hurry? Be careful on the road you step on. There are no electric lights in the courtyard, and it's so dark that I can't see the road." Hans Mei Shui opened the door and saw Hans walking home, and immediately shouted loudly. Hearing his wife's voice, Hans smiled and said, "Xiaoxiu, I'm back." He also walked a little faster. Behind him, Gu Gongan saw a woman standing at the door against the moonlight. Her appearance was unclear. But he didn't expect that Hans would actually live in such a mountain. Fortunately, the road was relatively easy to walk. If there was no carriage, they would not know when they were going. He has not suffered like this in decades. "Come in, why are you back at this time? If you want to come back, go to Uncle Zhao's place and ask. They will be back to bring food in the next few days." Unconsciously, Mei Shui also became more and more interested in Hans. Have long since lost her aloofness. It's okay, it's okay. Just wait a little longer and go back first. It's dark here and you can't see." Hans saw his wife's belly at the first glance, where his child was. He was very frightened that his belly was so big now. "That's right, get out of the way." Grandma he came over and supported Xiaoxiu to get out of the way. "Who is this child?" Grandma he asked when she saw Hans carrying a child on his back. "I won't be able to explain for a while. The child is asleep. I'll put him on the bed first." Hans walked a little faster. He wanted to hug his wife and touch the child. At this time, Gu Gongan came over panting and said, "Hello. Hians had already entered the house, while Gu Gong'an faced his relatives alone. "Hello, come in quickly. It's late at night. Are you tired from walking? Are you hungry? Grandma will cook for you." "Thank you, Grandma, I'm not tired," but he didn't say he wasn't hungry. After closing the door, Grandma he helped Mei Shui walk to the light. "You sit down for a while, and I'll cook for you." Hians ran out before Grandma could say a few words. He hugged his wife and said, "Xiaoxiu, I miss you so much." His hug directly made Grandma he and Mr. Gu feel embarrassed. "You brat, what are you doing? I don't see any guests here." If it weren't for the child sleeping in the room, Grandma he would have wanted to roar like a lion from the east of the river. "Let go." Mei Shui became embarrassed and pushed Hians away, almost throwing him to the ground. Thank you to all the babies who voted. The village girl loves you. End of this chapter. 80s, The farmer's wife is the boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 191. Chapter 191, Taking the Children Home, Additional Updates. "You deserve it, Grandma," he cursed with a smile and turned around and entered the kitchen. Xiaobai also ran over to join in the fun. Hians was not angry when his wife pushed him back, nor was he embarrassed at all. As soon as Xiaobai came, he knelt down and picked him up. "Xiaobai, have you missed me?" The little dog body was swaying in Hian's hand. Gong and Gu coughed twice and said, "Hey Ans, why don't you introduce me?" Hians put down the dog in his hand and said, "How about my wife? She's beautiful, she really deserves a beating like that." Gu Gong'an was only about 10 years older than Hians, and when he showed off, he felt bad all over. "I think you deserve a beating." He stepped forward and punched him. After the fun, Hians took Mei Shui's hand and told her about the trip. After listening, Mei Shui heard Xiaobai calling in her mind, "Master, Master, Hians is back, I will teach you the exercises tonight." Hearing what happened to Hians on the road, Xiaobai also became worried. If something bad happened and Hians couldn't come back, his master would be very sad. It is thoughtful for the owner. Mei Shui was speechless. Can you become an immortal? At that time, she was envious of other people's powers, but unfortunately, she didn't have them. The lifespan of a person with superpowers will increase as the level increases. Xiaobai was stunned when he heard this. "No," but he answered honestly. "What's the use of that? Is it used for fighting? She has the skills to easily protect herself in this world." "Master, you underestimate this world too much. With your ability, others can kill you with one hand," Xiaobai said with disdain. "Not to mention those cannons, can you withstand them?" Mei Shui chuckled, "Then if you practice your technique, you'll be able to do it." She didn't believe it. "Also cannot? Then you're talking nonsense, but it's good for Hians to practice well. At least you don't have to worry about him dying when you go out." But Mei Shui knelt down and stroked Xiaobai's dog's head. "It's good to have another skill." Ah. After dinner, Gu Gong'an was asked to sleep with Xiaoyu. Hians had long missed his wife, so he took her hand and went up to the second floor. As soon as he got upstairs, Hians complained of lovesickness. Mei Shui felt very sweet when she heard it. "Then what are you going to do now?" Mei Shui asked about Xiaoyu. "What else can we do? Just keep him." He is also a poor child. Thinking of the injuries all over his body at that time, he still felt very distressed. "I don't have any objection, but Grandma," Mei Shui said worriedly. "It's okay, Grandma will agree. At worst, I will accept Xiao as my godson, and now there is no one in his family. It's up to you." The two of them hugged each other and talked, but Xiaobai under the bed was very anxious. "Okay, I'll give you a good thing." Mei Shui got out of bed, picked up Xiaobai, and asked him to take out the training method. After making a pretense, Mei Shui took out a small bag from a cabinet. "Xiaobai brought this thing back from the mountain." Mei Shui didn't even know where it came from. It has been ready since the last time it was said that it will not give it to its owner even if it is beaten to death, and insists on waiting until Hians comes back before it is willing to give it to him. Here you go, the baggage is not big. Judging from the appearance, it only contains 2 books, but it is still a bit heavy. Hians didn't know, but his wife gave it to him, so he opened it directly. After seeing the things inside, Hians couldn't laugh or cry. Xiaoxiu, is there a good guy coming to the village? Hulang. Mei Shui shook her head, there are no outsiders in the village. Then where did you get this? There were only 2 books in it, one was very thick, almost half as thick as a person's hand. The other one is a bit thinner and contains some pictures and texts. Meixiu took a closer look and asked, what's wrong? She could tell that it was a book of exercises. This kind of thing is all a lie. If you can really practice it, there will be many masters. These martial arts are all a lie, and he read these books a lot when he was in school. Isn't it? Xiaobai brought this back. It shouldn't be deceived. Why don't you give it a try? Mei Shui advised. You have to pet your own pets. Hians read 2 pages carefully, then shook his head with a wry smile. Okay, I'll give it a try. Meixiu also flipped through 2 pages of the other book and looked at it, but her eyes lit up as soon as she saw it, because it was a medical book and it was a good thing. Putting down Xiaobai, Mei Shui started reading seriously. Hians will be back for a longer time this time. Things in the county have been arranged. Xiaoxiu's belly is also getting bigger, so he has to stay with her at home. Gu Gong'an also stayed here for 2 or 3 days, and after visiting the whole village, he left Hejia village. When everyone found out that Hians had a friend from the police, the villagers had new gossip to fill in. Life in the village is very carefree, without the complications outside. After Hians got the skill, he started practicing it every morning and night. Don't say it, it's really starting to look good slowly. However, in Mei Shui's eyes, she can knock someone over with 1 kick and has no lethality at all. I also laughed at Xiaobai for several days. Until Xiaoxiu, is this practice real? I feel it after half a month at home. Hians was so excited that he hugged his wife and kissed her one night after finishing the practice. What do you feel? Mei Shui looked disgusted. This technique is real. I have developed my inner strength. Looking at his excited face, Mei Shui was also very surprised. It turns out he really has martial arts. Of course, how can something from our ancestors be fake? Hians was excited. Pity. Who said it was a lie at the time? Mei Shui said with a smile on her face. My fault. After saying that, Hians picked up Xiaobai who was beside the bed and kissed his dog face. Xiaobai, thank you. After having this thing, I won't be afraid when I get out of the car. Now he can at least hit too. As soon as the internal force was released, he could clearly feel the increase in physical strength. Xiaobai whined and cried, it wanted to sleep. Mei Shui was also moved when she heard that he said it was useful. She actually wants to cultivate immortality, but unfortunately, that is a legend or a novel. But the existence of martial arts is also very good, which can greatly enhance her combat effectiveness. As the 2 of them practiced every day, the time came to mid-July in a blink of an eye. Last time Boss Jian came to bring food, he has been here every 10 days since then. There are a lot of vegetables on the mountain. After harvesting, they will be planted again. Once planted, they will grow. I am afraid they will be sold until the Chinese New Year. The watermelons are ripe in July. Mei Shui has great hopes this time. Grandma, what are you doing? When Mei Shui woke up from her nap, she smelled an oily smell in the house, which was a bit offensive. Xiaoxiu is awake. Grandma plans to brush the door panel with tung oil so that it will not be afraid of moths. Grandma, he explained. Asking for recommendation votes, asking for monthly votes, asking for rewards, and showing your sincerity. End of this chapter.